Hello, I'm Captain Jack and welcome to the Hangar Bay. On this channel, we take a deep dive into the best starships, technology, and more from your favourite sci-fi universes. Today, we're talking about the X-303 Prometheus class from the legendary Stargate franchise. Look, this starship gets a bad rap. It is called the worst starship from the franchise, but we think that's a bit unfair. The design, while different from most other sci-fi shows, does make sense given the context of Stargate. So, let's explore the Prometheus class in detail. Remember, for the latest videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let us know what you think of the ship in the comments below. The X-303 represented humanity's first interstellar capital ship. While the X-302 hyperspace fighter would combat the likes of the Goa'uld Death Glider, Stargate Command needed something to go up against the Hatak class of vessel. The X-303 was designed using both Earth-based and alien technology. Speaking of the design, this was based on that of a traditional Earth naval aircraft carrier, which would perhaps explain the odd-looking shape of the Prometheus, compared to that of more traditional sci-fi vessels. The X-303 came in at a length of 195 meters, with a width of 80 meters and a height of 65 meters. The starship design was capable of both sublight travel and hyperspace travel, where it could reach up to half the speed of light at sublight speeds. The first hyperdrive was based on the Quadria, but this proved to be unstable. After helping him, the Asgard would provide upgrades to the Prometheus, the lead and only ship of the X-303 class. These upgrades included Asgard shields, which replaced the Goa'uld designed shields previously used. The Asgard also installed new hyperdrive technology, which solved the issue of the Quadria. Finally, the Asgard also installed their transporter system. This allowed beaming on and off of both personnel and equipment, but also allowed for whole buildings to be beamed up on occasion. Speaking of transport, the X-303 was also equipped with transportation rings, which could interact with Goa'uld and ancient transport rings. Landing gear were fitted to the X-303, allowing the ship to land on alien planets, as well as dock within its landing bay on Earth. The tripodal landing gear system features one leg in the front area of the vessel design and two in the rear section. This did leave the midsection of the starship without any support. The landing process of the X-303 was assisted with the anti-gravity pod. In an interesting communication design, Prometheus was fitted with traditional telephones in the corridors to allow for inter-ship communication. Eventually, humanity would move to use wireless radio headsets, typically worn by ship personnel and visiting SG teams. The comms array for the X-303 was placed on the rear section of the ship. 2 hangar bays were fitted on the starship. 8 F-302 interceptors could be launched from the starship, with 4 in each bay. While being designed for Earth's fighters, the bays could also hold Death Gliders. There were also cargo bays located on the ship design. This was at least 22 feet high to allow for loading and unloading of cargo. The X-303 was armed with 16 railguns. These would be used for ship-to-ship combat and were effective enough to take out a Death Glider in just a few shots. They'd also be able to go up against both Elkesh and Hataks. To complement the railguns, the X-303 was fitted with missile batteries, 12 to be specific. These missiles were designed to combat fighters like the Death Gliders, but also provide more options for ship-to-ship combat. On occasion, the Prometheus also carried nuclear warheads that had been enhanced with Naquadah. The X-303 was in construction in the early 2000s, located in the hangar bay in Nevada by Area 51 R&D. To facilitate the construction of such a large project, work was subcontracted by the United States to civilian companies, without revealing the true nature of the project. During the construction, the X-303 was hijacked by rogue NID agents. They negotiated and demanded the release of a previously arrested Colonel Frank Simmons and a Goa'uld-infested Adrian Conrad, both who had been captured and placed under arrest previously. A hostage crisis broke out, and the hijackers successfully launched the X-303 into orbit, intending to steal the ship. Thankfully, Colonel Jack O'Neill and Teal'c of SG-1 were able to retake the ship and defeat the hijackers. This happened just in time for the Asgard to borrow the ship and skeleton crew for a mission. In return for the completion of a mission to the former Asgard homeworld of Hala, the advanced race refitted Prometheus with new shields as a show of gratitude. Due to their policy, the Asgard refused to fit weapons onto Prometheus. As the ship had not been officially commissioned, the X-303 project name of Prometheus stuck. The ship was then officially commissioned as Prometheus of the X-303 class. However, Colonel Neil would protest that the ship should have been called Enterprise, rather than a Greek tragedy. The ship was still in testing around 2003, now under command of Colonel William Ronson. Their attempted test of a Naquadah reactor core to enable the ship to travel through hyperspace resulted in a critical failure. Prometheus dropped out of hyperspace prematurely, and the crew had to eject the reactor core. Unfortunately, again, the local planet below where the core was detonated saw this as a hostile act and attempted to destroy Prometheus. The Starship was able to land for repairs and successfully negotiate with the planet of Tigria to locate their Stargate so that humanity could return home. With the lack of a reactor core, Prometheus was effectively stranded on Tigria. Thankfully, a year later, using a hyperdrive of a captured Alkesh bomber, the ship was on her way home, albeit underpowered. When Anubis launched an all-out attack on Earth, Prometheus was the only spaceship Stargate Command had to defend the planet. Prometheus was placed under recently reassigned Major General George S. Hammond's command, who took the ship and went to Antarctica to aid SG-1, who had recently discovered the location of an ancient outpost. Prometheus engaged the forces of Anubis and successfully defended SG-1 while they got to work. With their weapons being depleted and losing fighters, General Hammond opted to take the fight to the enemy. Prometheus broke off a defense of SG-1's location, once they were clear, and headed straight for Anubis' mothership. As shields were draining and fearing no other solution, Hammond ordered the ship to bridge for a collision. Thankfully, Colonel Neo activated a weapon platform and successfully defeated Anubis' fleet, saving Prometheus from a collision course. Prometheus was assigned a new commander, Colonel Lionel Pendergast. Due to the lack of a reliable hyperdrive, the ship was tasked with orbital patrols and the defense of Earth. Prometheus would aid Stargate Command during the Full Alert incident, in which he successfully destroyed an Alkesh being used by the rogue organization known as the Trust. After this, the Asgard finally installed their hyperdrive technology on board Prometheus. This new tech led General Hammond to borrow Prometheus for an expedition to the Pegasus galaxy. The goal was to find out what happened to the Atlantis expedition, as it had been sent out by Earth but had no contact with them. Unfortunately, this mission was a failure, as the ship was hijacked by the pirate known as Vala Maldoran. Eventually, Prometheus was recaptured, but had to return to Earth due to hull damage. Prometheus initially played a role in the Ori incursion into the known galaxy. She aided SG-1 in locating the ancient treasure vault under the Glastonbury Tor. The ship would later play a role in the Battle of Kalana, where the Ori attempted to build a beachhead by way of constructing a supergate. This was a front for their impending invasion of the Milky Way galaxy. Thankfully, the ship and crew were able to stop this by thanks to Vala Maldoran, who successfully destabilized the supergate. Unfortunately, Prometheus was short-lived. The Battle of Talos would be her last engagement. After the disappearance of SG-1's Dr. Daniel Jackson, Prometheus was dispatched of SG-1 and Colonel Pendergast. Upon arrival, they detected an Ori satellite, which belonged to one of the factions on the planet known as the Rand Protectorate. Detecting a power buildup, Prometheus fired upon the satellite. Unfortunately, the Ori had installed shields which prevented any damage. Provoked by the attack, Rand used the satellite to return the fire. The firepower of the satellite quickly overwhelmed Prometheus' Asgard shields and pierced the hull, causing critical hull damage. Colonel Mitchell scrambled F-302 fighters, but they were of little use. Another shot crippled Prometheus further, causing decks to decompress, and some crew killed or vented into space. Ultimately, with the satellite recharging for another shot, Colonel Pendergast ordered the evacuation of the crew using the Asgard transport beams. The crew were beamed off the ship. Having already taken 3 shots to the hull, Prometheus was critically damaged. The fourth and final shot split the neck of the X-303 before the overload caused massive explosions, ripping through the hull. Colonel Pendergast and 39 members of the crew died as a result. This marked the first Tari ship to have been destroyed in a battle. Eventually, the X-303 became the BC-303, which was the production model of a Prometheus-class. Although Prometheus did play a major role in both the Tari Goa Old War and the Ori Crusade, humanity opted to produce more of a BC-304 Daedalus class, leaving Prometheus as the sole vessel ever made and the class obsolete. The BC-304, known as Odyssey, would be launched under the command of Paul Emerson and take the role as Earth's flagship. Prometheus was introduced in the episode of the same name for Stargate SG-1, which was written by Joseph Mallozzi and Paul Mully. Prometheus was imagined by the show's writers as Earth's answers to the Hatak mothership. In interviews, Paul Mully mentioned how he wanted something exactly opposite to the Goa Old design. It appears executive producer Brad Wright wanted a set of objects that could be interacted with by actors, hence why the ship has a lot of screens, buttons, and flashing lights. Production designer Bridget McGuire began work 5 weeks before filming commenced on the episode. McGuire focused on the idea of a contemporary seagoing military craft that would inform both the interior and exterior of the ship design. She was aided in her design work by assistant art director Nolene Tobin. They researched a collection of reference images and schematics to help the process. The goal was to incorporate many features that were seen in military vessels and adapt them for space travel. McGuire specifically wanted to ensure that there were low ceilings and confined spaces. It gave the vibe of a submarine and aircraft control towers being blended into the ship design. Once basic sketches were complete, McGuire presented them to art directors Peter Bondaris and James Robbins. Both of these team members then built upon McGuire's ideas, which provided a final look at what would be Prometheus. Robbins took responsibility for developing the exterior schematics and interior workings of the ship. he purposely chose function over form, which resulted in the ship being utilitarian in design. You can see some of his concept work on screen now. Thanks to Joseph Mallozzi's blog, we've linked this in the video description, and we encourage you to explore more of Joe's writings on the Stargate universe. Work on Prometheus continued with construction of filming sets. The set was designed so that it could be built and taken apart quickly. But did you know that sets were multi-purpose? As a cost-saving measure, Prometheus was also redressed to serve as the Daedalus, which was seen in Stargate Atlantis. The set would also be reused for the Daedalus-class ships such as the Apollo, Odyssey, and Korolev. Also, the USS General Hammond in Stargate Universe. So, what did you think of Prometheus? All in all, the ship was short-lived in humanity's service. Evidently it was not considered the best design, as it was completely replaced in favour of the BC-304 Daedalus class. Speaking of which, be on the lookout for our video on that class very soon. Let us know what you think of the X-303 in the comments section below. And do you believe this is the worst Stargate starship? Definitely not in our opinion. That's the end of this video. I've been Captain Jack in the Hangar Bay. Remember, if you're talking about science fiction, we want to hear about it.